Katie Martinez stepped off the transport ship and looked around in wonder. The Galactic Diplomatic Academy on Nexus Prime was nothing like the pictures she had seen back on Earth. Tall crystal towers reached up into the purple sky, and strange flying vehicles moved silently between the buildings. The air smelled different here, like flowers she had never experienced before. She was 19 years old and had studied languages at college for 2 years. When Earth announced the first cultural exchange program with the Galactic Council, Katie applied immediately. Out of thousands of students, only she was chosen. Her professors said she had a special gift for understanding how different people communicated. The Academy welcomed students from 12 different alien species. Katie had studied their basic languages, but seeing them in person was completely different. The Vorthans looked like tall, graceful birds with silver feathers. The Korthani were massive creatures covered in thick armor-like skin. The Zelrani floated in clear water tanks, their tentacles moving in patterns that created their language. On her first day, Katie sat alone in the dining hall. She watched the other students eating strange foods and talking in languages that sounded like music or machinery. A young Vorthan approached her table. His feathers were deep blue and his large eyes held curiosity. "You are the human," he said in careful English. "I am called Zeftar. May I sit with you?" Katie smiled and nodded. "Please do. I'm Katie Martinez. It's nice to meet you." Zeftar sat down carefully, folding his long legs under the table. "I have been studying human culture. Your art and music are very different from ours. We create perfect harmonies that follow ancient rules, but human music breaks rules and makes new patterns. It is fascinating." They talked for hours. Zeftar showed Katie how Vorthan writing worked, using claw marks that looked like flowing water. Katie taught him some Spanish words and showed him pictures of Earth cities and forests. They became fast friends. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. She visited the Academy regularly to check on Katie's progress. Elena was a smart woman in her 40s who spoke 6 alien languages fluently. She had worked for years to arrange this exchange program. "How are you settling in?" Elena asked during one of their meetings. "It's amazing," Katie said. "Every day I learn something new. Did you know the Morvans can see colors we don't even have names for? And the Korthani have 3 different ways to say friend, depending on how long they've known someone." Elena smiled but looked worried. "Have you noticed any tension between the species here?" Katie thought about it. Some of the older students seem to stick to their own groups. And I've heard whispers about humans being too young or too unpredictable. But most of the students are friendly. What Katie didn't mention was something she had overheard in the library. 2 Korthani students were talking in their own language, not knowing she had been studying it. They said humans were dangerous and shouldn't be trusted. One of them mentioned Elder Vex Mirren, calling him wise for watching the humans carefully. Elder Vex Mirren was one of the most powerful beings in the Galactic Council. He represented the Korthani Empire, which had been the Council's military force for over 3,000 years. The Korthani were proud of their strength and their perfect order. They believed in following rules and maintaining peace through control. Vex Mirren had been against allowing humans into the Academy from the beginning. In council meetings, he often spoke about how humans were too chaotic, too emotional, and too quick to change. He thought they would disrupt the careful balance that had kept the galaxy peaceful for millennia. "Look at their history," he would say to other council members. "They fight wars over ideas. They change their governments. They question authority. These are not the qualities of a species that can be trusted with galactic citizenship." But the other council members had voted to give humans a chance. They were curious about this new species that had developed space travel so quickly. Some were even impressed by human creativity and problem-solving abilities. One evening, Katie was studying late in the Academy library. The building was mostly empty, and she had found a quiet corner to work on her assignment about interspecies communication. She was reading about the history of the Galactic Council when she stumbled upon something strange. Hidden in an old archive file, she found references to something called purification protocols. The document was mostly in an ancient language she couldn't read, but some parts were translated into standard galactic. The words threat elimination and species removal appeared several times. Katie felt a chill run down her spine. She printed out the document and several others that seemed related. When she tried to access more files, she found they were classified at the highest levels. Only council elders could view them. The next day, she showed the documents to Zeftar. His feathers ruffled with distress as he read them. "This cannot be right," he said quietly. "The council protects all species. They have brought peace to the galaxy. But look at this list," Katie pointed to a section of text. "These are species names I don't recognize. And this date system. Some of these entries are from thousands of years ago." Zeftar was silent for a long moment. "There were species that used to exist. My grandmother told me stories about them. The Altarians had beautiful crystal cities. The Nethys could travel through space without ships. But they disappeared. We were told they had transcended to higher dimensions or chosen to leave this galaxy." Katie and Zeftar decided to research further. They began spending their free time in the archives, looking for more information about these vanished species. What they found disturbed them deeply. Every species on the list had been described as disruptive to galactic harmony or incompatible with council values. Every species had been given chances to change their ways, and every species had eventually been declared extinct due to natural causes or voluntary departure. The pattern was clear, but the implications were terrifying. Had the Galactic Council, the organization that claimed to protect all life in the galaxy, actually been destroying species that didn't fit their vision of order? Katie knew she had to tell Dr. Rodriguez about this discovery, but she also knew that asking too many questions might be dangerous. If the Council had really eliminated other species, what would they do to a human who uncovered their secret? As she walked back to her dormitory that night, Katie noticed she was being watched. A tall Korthani in official council robes stood in the shadows near the academy entrance. When she looked directly at him, he turned and walked away. Something was very wrong, and Katie was beginning to fear she had stumbled onto the most dangerous secret in the galaxy. Katie met Dr. Elena Rodriguez at a small cafe near the academy. Elena listened carefully as Katie explained what she and Zeftar had found in the archives. The ambassador's face grew more serious with each detail. "Are you absolutely sure about these documents?" Elena asked quietly. Katie showed her the printed files. "We found dozens of references. Zeftar helped me translate the older texts. Elena, I think the Council has been killing entire species for thousands of years." Elena studied the papers for several minutes. Her hands shook slightly as she read. "Katie, this is incredibly dangerous information. If this is true, then everything we've been told about the Council is a lie. What should we do? We need more evidence. But we also need to be very careful. If the Council suspects we know about this, they might see us as a threat." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison was reviewing reports at the Interstellar Defense Command. Earth had built its first real space fleet in just 5 years. The ships were small compared to alien vessels, but they were fast and packed with innovative technology. Jake's daughter Lisa worked as a scientist on the research station near Proxima Centauri. She studied alien biology and helped develop protocols for peaceful first contact with new species. In her latest message, she had expressed excitement about humanity's acceptance into the galactic community. Jake was less optimistic. His military experience told him that when something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. The Council had welcomed humanity very quickly, almost too quickly. Most species took decades to gain full membership, but humans had been fast-tracked in just 2 years. Back on Nexus Prime, Katie and Zeftar continued their investigation. They discovered that the Academy's main computer had access to deeper Council archives, but only during certain hours when security protocols were reduced for maintenance. Late one night, they snuck into the main administrative center. Zeftar used his natural ability to mimic sounds to copy the voice patterns of a Council archivist. The computer system accepted his vocal authorization. What they found was worse than they had imagined. The purification protocols were not just historical records. They were active policies. The Council had a systematic method for evaluating new species and determining whether they were suitable for galactic integration. The evaluation had several stages. First, the species was observed in secret to study their behavior patterns. Then, they were invited to join the galactic community and given access to limited technology and knowledge. Finally, they were tested through manufactured crises to see how they would react. Katie felt sick as she read the evaluation criteria. Species that showed too much independence, creativity, or unpredictability were marked for elimination. The Council preferred civilizations that followed orders, respected authority, and maintained stable social structures. "Look at this," Zeftar whispered, pointing to a recent file. "Humanity, species designation 4A7739. Status under evaluation." Katie read over his shoulder. The file contained detailed observations of human behavior, politics, and technology. Earth's rapid technological development was noted as concerning. Human tendencies toward questioning authority and changing governments were marked as potentially destabilizing factors. Most disturbing of all, there was a timeline. Humanity's evaluation period was scheduled to end in 6 months. If humans failed the final test, the purification protocols would be activated. "What's the final test?" Katie asked. Zeftar searched through more files. "Here it is. They're going to create a crisis situation and observe how humanity responds. If humans react with violence, refuse to follow Council guidance, or attempt to organize other species against the Council, they will be classified as a galactic threat." Katie realized the horrible truth. This exchange program isn't about cultural learning. It's part of the test. They're watching me to see how humans behave when integrated with other species. They copied as much information as they could onto portable data storage devices, but as they prepared to leave, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the building. Security lights flashed, and they heard the sound of approaching footsteps. "Run!" Zeftar shouted. They raced through the corridors, but Korthani security forces blocked their escape routes. Elder Vex Miran himself appeared, flanked by armed guards. "The human child has been reading classified materials," he said in his deep, rumbling voice. "This confirms what I have always suspected. Humans cannot be trusted. They are naturally deceptive and dangerous." "We were just studying," Katie said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You were spying," Vex Miran replied. "You have violated the sacred trust of the Academy and committed crimes against the Council. This behavior will be reported to your homeworld as evidence of human treachery." Katie and Zeftar were taken to separate holding cells. Katie knew that she had to get word to Earth somehow, but all communication was being monitored. She was allowed to send one message to her parents, but it would be censored. She wrote carefully, "Having wonderful time learning about galactic history. Did you know some civilizations disappeared completely? Miss you. Tell Admiral Morrison's family I said hello. The library here has amazing archive collections about past protocols. Love, Katie." She hoped someone would understand the hidden meaning in her words. 3 days later, Dr. Rodriguez visited Katie in detention. Elena looked frightened and angry. "They're charging you with theft of classified information and conspiracy against the Council," Elena said. "Katie, they want to make an example of you. They're saying this proves humans can't be trusted. Did my message get through to Earth? I don't know. All communications are being blocked. Katie, there's something else. They're planning a public trial. The sentence for your crimes under Council law is death." Katie felt the world spinning around her. "Death for looking at old files?" "It's not really about the files," Elena said sadly. "I think they've been planning this from the beginning. They needed an excuse to eliminate humanity, and you've given them one. They'll say that if even their chosen exchange student is a spy and a thief, then all humans must be dangerous." "What about Zeftar? They're calling him a victim of human manipulation. His species is being told that you corrupted him with human lies and trickery." That night, alone in her cell, Katie understood that she was going to die. But more importantly, she realized that her death was meant to justify the destruction of her entire species. Earth had no idea what was coming. She had to find a way to warn them. Somehow she had to get the truth to her people before it was too late. The Council was counting on humanity being caught off guard, just like all the other species they had eliminated over the millennia. But Katie had learned something about humans that the Council didn't understand. When cornered, humans didn't just submit quietly. They fought back with everything they had. The question was whether she could get that message to Earth before Elder Vex Miran could complete his plan to wipe out humanity forever. The trial lasted only 3 days. Katie stood in the Great Council chamber, while 12 alien judges decided her fate. Elder Vex Miran presented evidence that she had stolen classified documents, corrupted an innocent Vorthon student, and planned to use the information to help Earth attack the Council. Dr. Elena Rodriguez argued desperately for mercy. She explained that Katie was just a curious student who had stumbled onto old files. She begged the council to consider Katie's youth and good intentions, but the council had already decided. They found Katie guilty of espionage and treason against the galactic government. The penalty was death by quantum dissolution, a process that would slowly tear apart every atom in her body while she remained conscious. It would take several hours and cause unimaginable pain. This sentence will serve as a warning to all species, Elder Vexmiran announced. Those who betray the trust of the council will face the ultimate consequences. The execution was scheduled for 3 days later. It would be broadcast across the galaxy as a demonstration of council justice. On the night before her death, Katie was allowed one visitor. Zeftar came to her cell, his silver feathers dulled with grief. "I am so sorry," he whispered. "This is my fault. I should never have helped you research those files." "No," Katie said firmly. "You did the right thing. The galaxy needs to know the truth about what the council has done." Zeftar looked around nervously, then pulled a small device from his robes. "This is a quantum communicator. It can send one message anywhere in the galaxy, but it only works once before it burns out. I stole it from the Academy's emergency supplies." Katie took the device with shaking hands. "Thank you. You're risking your life for me." "You showed me that friendship is more important than following orders," Zeftar said. "Your people need to know what's coming." After he left, Katie recorded her message. She spoke quickly, knowing she had only minutes before guards would return. "This is Katie Martinez speaking to Earth. The Galactic Council is going to kill me tomorrow. But that's not the important part. They've been destroying species for thousands of years. They call it the purification protocols. Earth is their next target. They're testing us right now, and when we fail their test, they'll eliminate all of humanity. Don't trust them. Don't let them pretend this was justice. They killed the others, and they'll kill us too. I'm sorry I can't come home. Tell my parents I love them. And tell our leaders to be ready for war." She sent the message to Admiral Jake Morrison's personal communication code, hoping it would reach him before the council could intercept it. The execution took place in the main plaza of Nexus Prime. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy watched as Katie was strapped to the quantum dissolution platform. The machine hummed with deadly energy. Captain Alex Harper, commander of the Earthship Defiance, was in orbit around Nexus Prime as part of a diplomatic mission. He had been ordered to witness the execution and report back to Earth. The council wanted human representatives to see what happened to those who opposed them. As the machine activated, Katie looked directly into the camera broadcasting her death. She did not scream or beg for mercy. Instead, she spoke clearly for all to hear. "My name is Katie Martinez. I am 19 years old. I came here to learn about other cultures and help build bridges between species. The council is killing me because I discovered their secret. They have murdered entire civilizations. Humanity is their next target. Don't let my death be in vain." The quantum dissolution began. Katie's body started to glow as her atoms were slowly torn apart. The process was designed to take hours, causing maximum suffering. The council wanted everyone to see what happened to those who defied them. Captain Harper watched in horror as the young woman died slowly and painfully. He had daughters Katie's age back on Earth. The sight of her execution filled him with rage and determination. The broadcast was transmitted to Earth along with Harper's tactical report. Admiral Morrison received both the official execution footage and Katie's secret message at the same time. Within hours, emergency sessions were called at every level of Earth's government. President Maria Santos met with her advisors, military leaders, and scientists. They studied Katie's message and the evidence she had died trying to protect. Dr. Sam Chen, Earth's leading physicist, had been working on classified weapons projects for the past 2 years. The government had worried that humanity might eventually face hostile aliens, so they had prepared defensive technologies. "We've been developing weapons based on chaos theory," Dr. Chen explained to the Emergency Council. "Most alien species seem to prefer order and predictability. Their technology follows rigid patterns. Our weapons are designed to introduce chaos into their systems, causing them to malfunction or turn against each other." Admiral Morrison stood before the assembled leaders. "The council murdered an innocent girl to send us a message. They think this will make us afraid and compliant. They're wrong. Earth has never backed down from bullies, and we're not starting now." President Santos authorized Operation Righteous Fury, the complete mobilization of Earth's military and industrial capacity. Every spaceship, every weapon, every resource would be devoted to war against the Galactic Council. But first, they would tell the truth to the galaxy. Earth's communication networks broadcast Katie's story and the evidence of the purification protocols to every world they could reach. They showed the execution footage alongside historical records of vanished species. The reaction was immediate. Several younger species that had recently joined the Council were horrified to learn about the systematic genocide. The Vorthans, led by Zeftar's family, openly declared their support for humanity and their opposition to the Council's actions. 3 other species announced they were withdrawing from the Council and declaring neutrality. They began evacuating their home worlds, fearing retaliation. Elder Vexmiran was furious. His plan to intimidate humanity had backfired completely. Instead of making them submit, Katie's execution had turned Earth into an enemy that united other species against the Council. But he was confident in the Council's military superiority. The Korthani fleet had never been defeated. Their weapons had destroyed dozens of worlds. No single species had ever successfully challenged the Council's authority. He was about to learn that humans were different from every other species the Council had faced. They didn't just fight to win. They fought to make sure their enemies could never threaten anyone else again. As Earth's warships began moving toward Council territory, Admiral Morrison sent one final message to Elder Vexmiran. "You killed our daughter. Now we're coming for you." Earth's war against the Galactic Council began at exactly the same moment across 12 different star systems. Admiral Morrison had planned the attack carefully. Instead of fighting one enemy at a time, humanity would strike all the Council homeworlds simultaneously. The Council had expected a traditional war with battle lines and formal declarations. They were prepared for human ships to attack their strongest military positions first. What they got instead was chaos. Commander Rachel Stone led the assault on the Korthani homeworld. Her fleet of 30 ships faced over 300 Council vessels, but the humans had advantages the aliens couldn't understand. Earth's weapons were designed to turn enemy technology against itself. "Deploy Chaos torpedoes," Rachel ordered. The torpedoes looked harmless as they approached the massive Korthani battleships. The alien commanders laughed at the small human weapons, but when the torpedoes made contact, everything changed. The Chaos devices sent random signals into the Korthani ships' computer systems. The aliens relied on perfect coordination between all their ships' components. When that coordination was disrupted, their own shields began collapsing inward. Their weapons fired at their own allies, and their navigation system sent them spinning out of control. Within minutes, the mighty Korthani fleet was destroying itself. The few ships that remained operational fled in terror from weapons they couldn't comprehend. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Lieutenant Ben Wright coordinated with rebel factions among the younger Council species. Zeftar's people, the Vorthans, had secretly prepared for this moment. When human ships arrived in their system, they joined the attack against Council forces. "We will not let them do to others what they tried to do to you," Zeftar said in a message to Earth. "Katie Martinez died for truth. We will fight for her memory." 3 other species declared neutrality and began evacuating their homeworlds rather than fight for the Council. They had seen the evidence of the purification protocols and wanted no part of the organization that had committed genocide. The Council's ancient defense systems had protected their worlds for thousands of years. These automated networks could destroy entire fleets using energy weapons and guided missiles that never missed their targets. But they were designed to fight conventional enemies. Captain Nicole Adams discovered something remarkable about the alien defense systems. They were all connected through quantum communication networks that allowed instant coordination across vast distances. The aliens saw this as a strength, but humans saw it as a weakness. "If we can hack into one defense network, we can control them all," Nicole explained to her technical team. Her ship, the Vengeance, carried Earth's most advanced computer warfare specialists. They had studied captured alien technology for months, learning how Council systems worked. When they got close enough to a defense network, they uploaded a virus that spread through the quantum connections like wildfire. Suddenly, defense systems that had protected Council worlds for millennia began targeting their own cities and spaceships. Weapons that had destroyed countless enemy fleets turned their guns on the very worlds they were supposed to defend. Elder Vexmiran watched in horror from his command bunker as his homeworld burned around him. The Corthani had never faced an enemy like this. Humans didn't just defeat their enemies. They turned their own strength against them. How are they doing this? He demanded of his technical advisors. We don't understand their technology, one of them replied, his voice shaking with fear. They think differently than us. Where we create order, they create chaos. Our systems cannot adapt fast enough to counter their attacks. In desperation, Vexmiran ordered the activation of the Council's ultimate weapon, planet-killer bombs that could destroy entire worlds in seconds. If he couldn't defeat humanity in battle, he would at least make them pay a terrible price for their victory. But Dr. Elena Rodriguez was still on Nexus Prime, leading a multi-species resistance cell that had formed after Katie's execution. Elena had spent years learning about Council technology, and she knew where the planet-killer controls were located. Working with Vorthon rebels and sympathetic members of other species, Elena's team infiltrated the main Council command center. They fought their way through layers of security to reach the weapons control room. For Katie, Elena said as she began reprogramming the targeting systems, instead of targeting human colonies, the planet-killer weapons locked onto Council worlds. When Vexmiran tried to fire them, they destroyed the capitals of 3 Council member species instead. The effect was catastrophic for Council morale. Their own ultimate weapons had turned against them. Panic spread through their remaining fleets as commanders realized that no Council technology could be trusted anymore. Dr. Sam Chen's greatest creation was revealed in the final phase of the war. Earth had developed a virus that didn't affect living beings but corrupted the quantum computational systems that formed the backbone of all advanced alien technology. The virus spread through Council networks faster than they could respond. Within hours, entire civilizations lost their power grids, their spaceships, their communication systems, and their planetary defenses. Council worlds went dark as their technology failed completely. Some Council species tried to surrender, but Earth was not interested in half measures. Admiral Morrison had made humanity's position clear from the beginning. This war would continue until the Council could never threaten another species again. They had thousands of years to choose peace, Morrison said in a broadcast to the galaxy. They chose genocide instead. Now they'll face the consequences of that choice. The Corthani fought to the bitter end, their warrior culture unable to accept defeat, but even their legendary stubbornness couldn't overcome weapons that turned their own technology into their enemy. Commander Stone stood on the bridge of her flagship as the last Corthani battleship exploded in the void. Around her, the wreckage of the mightiest fleet in galactic history drifted silent and dead. Admiral Morrison, she reported, Corthani resistance has ended. Their homeworld is under human control. Similar reports came in from across the galaxy. One by one, the 12 founding species of the Galactic Council fell to human forces or surrendered unconditionally. Some species fled to distant galaxies rather than face human justice. The war that the Council expected to last decades was over in less than 6 months. The organization that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years had been completely destroyed by a species they had underestimated. But the real victory was not military. Across the galaxy, dozens of younger species were learning the truth about the Council's history of genocide. The evidence that Katie Martinez had died to protect was spreading from world to world. The purification protocols were revealed in their full horror. Species that had lived in fear of Council judgment for centuries suddenly understood that they had been ruled by murderers and tyrants. As the smoke cleared from the battlefields, humanity faced a new challenge. They had destroyed the old galactic order, but what would replace it? 6 months after Katie Martinez died on Nexus Prime, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the ruins of the old Council chambers. The building had been damaged during the final battle, but humanity had chosen to preserve it as a memorial rather than tear it down completely. Where Katie had been executed, a simple stone monument now stood. The inscription was written in dozens of languages from across the galaxy. Katie Martinez, student, explorer, bridge builder. Her death ended an empire. Her memory will build a better one. Morrison placed a small earth flower at the base of the monument. His daughter Lisa had sent it from the research station at Proxima Centauri, where she continued her work studying alien biology. She had named a new species of space-dwelling creatures after Katie, ensuring the young woman's name would live on in scientific records. The cost of the war had been enormous for both sides. Of the 12 founding species of the Galactic Council, 4 were completely extinct. Their stubborn refusal to surrender had led to the destruction of their entire civilizations. Morrison felt no satisfaction in their deaths, but he knew they had made their own choice. 5 species had surrendered when they realized the war could not be won. They now lived under human supervision, while new governments were established. Their old leaders who had participated in the purification protocols faced trial for genocide. 2 species had chosen to flee rather than face human justice. They loaded their populations onto massive ships and disappeared toward distant galaxies, never to return. Humanity let them go, having no interest in pursuing enemies who no longer posed a threat. The Vorthons were the only original Council species to join humanity's cause during the war. Zeftar had become a hero among his people for standing up to the Council. He now served as the first non-human advisor to Earth's new Galactic Commonwealth government. "Katie would be proud of what we've built," Zeftar said, joining Morrison at the memorial. The Commonwealth was humanity's answer to the old Council's tyranny. Instead of a small group of ancient species ruling over everyone else, the new government included representatives from every world that wanted to participate. Decisions were made by democratic vote rather than imperial decree. Commander Rachel Stone had been appointed as the first human governor of the former Korthani territories. Her job was not easy. She had to rebuild entire worlds while helping former enemies learn to live in peace. "The hardest part isn't fixing the buildings," she explained to Morrison during one of his visits. "It's helping people learn to trust again. These worlds lived in fear for so long, they don't know how to make their own choices." Stone's reconstruction programs focused on education and economic development. Former Korthani colonies were introduced to democratic principles and free trade. Many of these worlds experienced prosperity for the first time in centuries, as trade barriers were eliminated and new technologies were shared freely. Captain Alex Harper, who had witnessed Katie's execution, now commanded the largest human fleet in the galaxy. His ships patrolled former Council territory, protecting the new Commonwealth from any remaining threats. "We learned something important during this war," Harper told his officers. "Technology alone doesn't win battles. The Council had better weapons and bigger ships, but they couldn't match our adaptability. When they tried to predict our moves, we changed our strategy. When they tried to use our own rules against us, we broke the rules and made new ones," Dr. Sam Chen established. The Katie Martinez Institute for Xenological Studies on Earth. The Institute's mission was to study alien cultures and prevent future conflicts through understanding rather than domination. Scientists from dozens of species came to Earth to share knowledge and develop new technologies together. The Council failed because they feared differences, Dr. Chen explained to his students. They saw chaos as something to be eliminated. But chaos is also creativity, growth, and change. The universe is built on the balance between order and chaos. When you try to eliminate one completely, you destroy both. The Institute's first major project was creating a galactic database of all known species, including those destroyed by the Council. Researchers worked to preserve the history and culture of civilizations that had been wiped from existence. Every vanished species received a memorial in the Institute's Hall of Remembrance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez returned to Earth as a hero, but she struggled with the memories of what she had witnessed. She had watched an innocent young woman die horribly while she stood helpless to save her. The guilt of surviving when Katie did not haunted her dreams. "I should have protected her better," Elena told President Maria Santos during a private meeting. "You gave her the tools to protect all of us," Santos replied. Katie's discovery of the purification protocols saved humanity from extinction. Her sacrifice meant something. Elena eventually found peace by working with the families of other Council victims. She helped establish support networks for species that had lost loved ones to the genocide programs. Her work ensured that the pain of the past would not be forgotten, but it would not consume the future either. The first Galactic Commonwealth Assembly met 1 year after Katie's death. Representatives from over 200 worlds gathered on Nexus Prime to establish the new government's basic laws and principles. President Santos addressed the assembly as the first Commonwealth Chancellor. "We didn't seek this war. We didn't want to become conquerors. But when they murdered our daughter, they forgot the most important thing about humanity. We protect our own and we never forget." The Council learned too late that humans make terrible enemies but faithful friends. Let that be the last lesson they teach the galaxy. The Commonwealth's founding charter included strict protections for individual species' rights and cultures. No government could impose its values on others. No species could be forced to change its way of life to fit someone else's vision of order. And most importantly, no organization would ever again have the power to eliminate entire civilizations in the name of stability. Elder Vex Mirren had survived the war, though his empire lay in ruins around him. He was brought to trial for crimes against sentient life. During his testimony, he showed no remorse for his actions. "We brought order to chaos," he said defiantly. "We created a stable galaxy where different species could coexist peacefully. The humans have destroyed that peace with their chaotic violence." "You call genocide peaceful?" the human prosecutor asked. "I call it necessary," Vex Mirren replied. "Some species cannot be allowed to spread their chaos to others. The humans have proven this by destroying everything we built." He was sentenced to life imprisonment on a remote world where he could spend his remaining years contemplating the cost of his choices. Many wanted him executed, but the Commonwealth chose mercy over revenge. The most important change came in how the galaxy approached interspecies relations. The new Commonwealth established cultural exchange programs, similar to the one that had brought Katie to Nexus Prime, but with proper safeguards and genuine respect for different ways of life. Zeftar became the first director of the expanded exchange program. Students from hundreds of worlds now came to study together, learning about each other's cultures, languages, and ideas. Katie dreamed of building bridges between species, Zeftar said at the program's opening ceremony. She died believing that understanding could prevent conflict. We honor her memory by making that dream real. On the second anniversary of Katie's death, her parents visited her memorial on Nexus Prime. They were accompanied by thousands of beings from across the galaxy who had come to pay their respects to the young woman whose courage had changed everything. Katie's mother placed a photo beside the monument, a picture of Katie at her college graduation, smiling with hope for the future. Her father left a letter he had written to his daughter, telling her about all the good things that had come from her sacrifice. As the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, a small group remained behind. Zeftar stood with Dr. Rodriguez, Commander Stone, and several other humans and aliens who had known Katie personally. "Do you think she would be proud of what we've built?" Dr. Rodriguez asked. "She would be proud that we learned from her example," Zeftar replied. "Katie taught us that one person's courage can light a fire that burns across the galaxy. She showed us that standing up for what's right is always worth the cost." The galaxy was at peace, but it was a different kind of peace than the Council had imposed. This peace was built on choice rather than fear, on cooperation rather than domination, and on the memory of a 19-year-old girl who had died rather than let evil triumph. Katie Martinez had wanted to build bridges between worlds. In the end, her death had torn down the walls that separated them.